Hey there, Film Buds. Welcome back to the Film Buds podcast. I'm your host, Paul.
And I'm Lauren.
And we are joined by friend of the show, Nick Delgadillo.
It's me again.
I'm back.
I
What was the last episode that you were on, Nick?
have no clue.
No, me neither.
Was it in April?
Yeah, it's been a minute. Like, it has been some time since you were on the show. I know that for a fact.
I don't remember what we last talked about, man.
No, I'll have to go and look at that.
I don't know.
Were you on the Avatar episode?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so
yeah.
that was April. So sometime between then and now, there might have been another one.
Summer.
No, I think that's right. It's been sort of a whirlwind time
Mhm.
overall, and so it's good to have you back on. It's been far too long. We haven't really had a
Yes.
guest in a little while, actually. So why don't you tell some of the people of what you've been up to?
Hi, I go to the movies and I go to concerts and attempt to juggle that with another job and and having a family. You can really have it all, but you don't get much sleep. You don't get much sleep when you're doing it.
What's the most recent concert that you've seen?
I've been good. Last week I saw Korn and Evanescence, which was great.
Oh.
This is Korn's third time in the Carolinas in like a year.
Oh, wow.
It was great. I've seen Korn a bunch. They're always fantastic. I've seen Evanescence once before, like over a decade ago. I think it was exactly a decade ago, 2012. And they're really good. This was I like this better than the last time I saw them, and I like the last time I saw them just fine. But they were really good. Good night.
Oh, that's awesome.
Nice. Honestly, I didn't even know that Korn or Evanescence was still performing. So that's nice to hear.
You got to keep up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep your wits about you.
That's right.
Could be
Gotta sell the
happening in
merch.
a town near you.
That's right.
You guys got to look out. The Blue Ridge Rock Festival is happening in Virginia. It's happening right now through Sunday.
Oh, well, we're leaving this weekend, so
You're doomed. I don't know. It's in Danville.
I couldn't even guess.
That's near like Greensboro-ish, apparently. But
Okay.
I don't know. It's a crazy festival going on over there.
Did you go to that one before?
No, I had tickets to a couple of days of it last year and ended up not going.
Okay, that sounded familiar.
Because it was like apparently a clusterfuck.
Yeah. This sounds very. You were saying?
Yeah. No, I was saying once you were in, apparently it was great. Like the bands themselves, but the rest was apparently a disaster.
Oh yeah.
Relatively.
I looked it up. It is near the border, and it also is near Greensboro.
Yeah. Double up.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Sometimes I know things.
Nick is, of course, joining us here on our second episode of Hispanic Heritage Month. Hispanic Heritage, of course, doesn't start for like another week. However, we decided to dedicate all of September to Hispanic heritage in film. Last week, we continued our general love affair with Guillermo del Toro with Devil's Backbone.
Yeah.
Which is sort of a companion piece to Pan's Labyrinth, if you didn't know. It's a little bit more of a horror film. It's one that he did after his earlier films, Kronos and Mimic, and sort of just before he really took off in the US with things like Blade 2 and that sort of thing. And so for this week, we decided to continue that, and there is another filmmaker. There are actually sort of three filmmakers from Mexico that all really cropped up in the 90s and into the aughts in sort of that independent cinema boom. And one of them is Alfonso Cuarón. And so this week we're going to be discussing Alfonso Cuarón's Y tu mamá también, which is at its core a road trip movie of a kind. And so before we get too far into our discussion on the film, I thought that I would ask y'all, what's your favorite road trip movie?
A Goofy movie.
There it is.
Oh, that's a good one.
I was wondering if anyone was going to pull that one out on us. Nick came out swinging with it.
That was solid. I don't know. I think I was thinking about Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. You should also check out that episode if you haven't.
Yes. Yes, you should. No, I just really enjoy the hell out of that movie.
I'll go with the original Muppet movie.
Oh, that's a good one too.
Yeah, there we go.
Because we're moving right along.
That's right. So I guess road trip movies, yeah, we kind of discussed it a little bit with our Magic Mike XXL review.
Yes.
Road trip movies at their core, are absolutely about the journey far more than the destination itself.
Is Magic Mike XXL a road trip movie?
It is.
I've got to watch it. So I've seen the first Magic Mike. I haven't seen the second.
The second one is fun and like frivolous. I prefer the first one for sure overall, but the second one definitely has a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I think it gets a little bit lost on the road trip, but I think overall it's an entertaining movie.
Yeah, they're on a road trip to this like strippers performance convention thing that's happening in
it's like their last hurrah.
Yeah.
I see.
One last ride on the stripper stage.
And it's got Jada Pinkett
Right.
Smith in it.
Yeah.
That's right.
And Childish Gambino himself.
That's right, because we also added a little bit more ethnicity into this one. They said we got to go to the black strip club for a little bit, where Childish is the performer.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it's really quite the thing. Highly recommend. What, I guess, Nick, would you consider the core elements for you for a road trip movie?
Has to be in a vehicle. Yeah, I mean, it's just people in a car. A lot of them are coming of age movies. I feel like this one we're talking about, Y tu mamá también. And this is pretty much it. You have to see different destinations, that they pass along the way. You have to have like the falling out and then the coming back together for whoever usually. Yes, correct.
No, I think that's all fair. I think road trip movies again are definitely about that sort of passage, from one point to the other, and I think that's also why, to your point, they often do end up feeling like they're often coming of age stories or transitionary stories in general for some character on that journey. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right with this film definitely being about people at transitionary points in their life. And so I guess without any further ado, we should just go ahead and sort of jump right on into this.
See.
All right. For a little bit of background, Alfonso Cuarón, our director, was born November 28th, 1961.
Old.
And he had wanted to study film for a long time or be an astronaut. And he didn't really feel like joining the military, which was a prerequisite for joining, to becoming an astronaut. And so he decided that he would put his passion into film.
Such polar opposites. I either want to be in film or I want to go into space. Nothing in between.
And so he diligently worked toward that goal, as a kid. He made little short films, that sort of thing. And he actually started to study film at university in Mexico. But also while studying philosophy, his mother wasn't necessarily sold on the idea of film, being a career.
Mhm.
And he ended up going and meeting Emmanuel Lubezki, who would end up going on to be one of his longtime collaborators and a cinematographer while studying. And he made a short film that ended up causing a little bit of a stir amongst the faculty. And I guess there were some disagreements about his opinions and the faculty's opinions about the film, and it led to him being expelled. One of the key things that apparently caused the initial ignition of the kerfuffle was the fact
Did he
that
kill
he
somebody
made the movie in
on
English.
film?
Oh,
He made the movie in English.
I mean, he might as well have killed somebody. That's murdering the art right there.
And so it for a while ended up seeming to him like his career was actually on the skids with film, and so he had a child at that point, and he needed to start working, and so he ended up working in a museum. And along the way, friends of his that he had interact with came along and started asking if he wanted to come and work on a crew. And so he went from working on crews to being a TV director to being a second unit director for a motion picture. And then he went and wrote his first film, his debut film in 1991, Solo con tu pareja. And it's sort of a comedy of a kind. It's apparently a little bit on the raunchier side. And a little bit macabre as well. And then he went on to go and direct two films in the U.S. He went and directed two adaptations, The Little Princess and Great Expectations. And also during this time, he started working on and writing along with his brother, Carlos, who is also a filmmaker, Y tu mamá también. And so then one decade after his debut film, he went back and he made his road trip film. The film came out June 8th, 2001. It's rated R. It's an hour and 46 minutes long. It is, of course, directed by Alfonso, written by he and his brother Carlos. It stars Maribel Verdú as Luisa, Gael Garcia Bernal as Julio, and Diego Luna as Tenoch. And the plot is, in Mexico, two teenage boys and an attractive older woman embark on a road trip and learn a thing or two about life, friendship, sex, and each other.
Just a thing or
Nick?
two.
One, maybe two.
It's really
Maybe.
for the most part.
Don't worry about it. It's just a thing or two here and there.
A
Maybe.
thing or two.
Who could say?
You have to watch and just kind of see for yourself.
Yeah, that's right. Nick,
Full review.
all right, let's wrap it
Yeah.
up then.
That's it.
Why don't you go ahead and take it away?
I mean, where do you even begin with this?
Well, I guess how
This is
how familiar are you with Alfonso as a
Oh, yeah.
filmmaker? You know, was
Yeah,
this your
so-
first watch?
Yeah, I had never seen this movie before. I have not seen like the first few films by him. I've seen all the rest. I've seen Prisoner of Azkaban onward, Prisoner of Azkaban, Children of Men, Gravity, Roma. So this is my first watch for this. I've heard about this film, seen it talked about a ton. But I never actually watched it. And despite seeing so much talk about it, I wasn't like spoiled. I didn't like really know any, what happens in it. Very much pretty vague. I really, really like this movie. This is a pretty sad movie, in my opinion. It's like a kind of like wistful, like it's not like, I don't know. I was going to say it's not really depressing, but it kind of is.
Wistful was a great choice of word. I loved wistful.
Yeah. But it's that same kind of, nostalgic look back at youth, and how fragile it is, What you hear a lot about, or what I've read a bunch about this movie after watching it, is you hear it described as like really just honest. It just feels real, not just because it has like a documentary kind of style to it, and not just because there's like my favorite just long single takes like he likes to do in a lot of his films. Uh, especially in this film, I think these long takes work well because it is more of like a straight kind of drama. So the long takes are just in service of dialogue scenes, whereas later it'd be like for action and stuff like that. This is all mostly just one-on-one people talking scenes that he does it for. Anyway, where was I going with this? How it just like feels real. Both a lot of like the conversations in the car or whatnot that they just have about like life and relationships and sex and everything. And the sexual like the scenes themselves also have a more truthful feel to them. It's like how these things play out more than like it's not like cinematic, it's not like the movie version where the lights go low and they have like the soft core porn angles.
Mm-hmm. In many ways, it almost makes it considerably more intimate.
Yeah, and
how truthful and honest the depiction is.
But at the same time, it's not like pornographic. Like you don't. You're not like really witnessing the acts,
No, for sure.
It's just great, it's honest. The ending has really bummed me out since I watched it yesterday. It's really great stuff. I love how it really naturally blends like all the best movies do, all the best stories, like the personal story of the three main characters and the bigger picture of where they're traveling through, which is Mexico. And where Mexico was at that time and how it was changing very rapidly and suddenly, just like our characters themselves.
Amazing.
Hoorah. Beautiful.
Right on there.
No,
beautiful. And I love the way it's done. It's done like very subtly, like obvious. It's the obvious subtlety, where like there's not really much dialogue about it. There's not like a blatant like, and this is how I feel about politically, about the time period or whatever, what's going on. It's, like the camera will just linger and, that's something going on outside of the car. Or, the third person narration that goes on that just gives context to like the before and after of wherever location that they're at. Just it's great. It's a great movie.
Dear, do you want to take it away?
I mean, you had a thought.
Okay.
Share it?
Yeah, sure. I was looking a little bit into the movie as well. We recently got this one from the Criterion, and so I was reading one of the essays that came with it, and it was talking about how for Cuarón, apparently he sort of conceptualized the characters, especially the young boys, as being in their adolescent youth, sort of transitionary phase, and he equated that to the phase that Mexico was in at the time, as being in this sort of adolescent, rebellious, very tumultuous transition, figuring out new identities and boundaries and that sort of thing. But they also sort of talked about, interestingly, how because our characters, even though Julio isn't necessarily rich, Julio and Tenoch are both still, to a certain degree, still more privileged and a little bit isolated from being directly impacted by some of that. It never encroaches into our narrative too directly.
They're able to remain oblivious to the happenings, politics and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they're aware to certain, I mean, he's definitely aware that Tenoch is definitely aware that his father, is a corrupt government official. But it's very, who cares? We've got other things on our mind, kind of.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
which is
again,
fair
it's
to
it's
what it
like
is to be that age.
it's yeah, but there's like the obvious, the subtlety there,
Mm-hmm.
and this road trip and everything that comes about because they're just like, especially Tanakh, is just like a bored rich kid. That's
Yeah.
where the exploration comes from.
No, for sure. And you also mentioned the disjointed narration. One of the things that really struck me after watching the movie was definitely that I guess I hadn't realized that there were like two movies so closely released together that to me instantly I was like, oh, I know what this is sort of pulling on. And it feels very inspired by a very particular fresh new wave, Jules and Jim,
Yeah.
which was also one of the core inspiration points for the Royal Tenenbaums as well from around this time. Like that's 2000 to like 2003-ish, somewhere in
Yeah.
there. But again, you have these two filmmakers, both sort of inspired by this French film that at its core is about the sort of messy relationships, and happenstances of life between this core group of characters. And all throughout Jules and Jim, it's interrupted by this narration that you're not quite sure who the narrator figure is. It's not a character.
Right.
Who's just giving this running commentary. And to your point, that was actually one of my favorite parts of the film as well, even though it is at first a little bit jarring when the sound just kind of drops out so thoroughly. You're like, hold on, what? But I found it very fascinating because it's narration that's very enriching. This has been something that we've talked about on the show, is narration is often so hard to do. Like the Free Guy narration is some of the worst narration of a movie ever, because it's literally just telling you essentially what you're seeing. Whereas this is really going in and expanding so much further. And like one of my favorite ones is about the fisherman. That's one of my favorite little bits.
That's the one that just, I was done. I was like, what do I do with that? What do I do now?
It's so
Thanks.
Because he's such a great dude,
But they almost don't give you the time to sit in how you're supposed to feel with that, because we're immediately sort of
moving
on to the next scene as well.
Because that's a part of, like, it's the monotone narration, just stating the facts.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like playing sad music and playing on whatever. It's just saying like, and then this is how it is. What happened then?
Yeah.
I mean, it almost had like a storybook, I guess, quality to it, where you get all the filler stuff. You get all the characters that are doing, their lines and their actions, but then we get all of this aside of what the surrounding area is doing, what's going on around them, while these people are just having this happen to them. They're having their own narrative, but at the end of the day, the world is still changing around them, and things are so quickly fleeting as well. If we had put this story just a few months or a few years into the future, it wouldn't have been able to be done in the way that it is now, because all of this stuff is gone.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoyed this movie a lot. I had never heard of this film before at all, but also I'm not really familiar with a lot of Alfonso's career other than Prisoner of Azkaban.
Gravity with Sandra Bullock.
Oh. Well, it's got Sandra Bullock in it.
No, that's why I knew that you would know that one.
No, I mean, you're fair with that, but honestly, like, I think that this has more of an identity to it, of something to say, more so than Gravity does. Just, for me, Gravity could have been almost anybody's film. We'll
get to that later, but that's, you and I will have a different discussion.
Okay, that's fine. But I really enjoyed getting to see this kind of window into Mexican history through this very this coming of age story of these two boys, not only figuring out who they are as people, but also who they are in their own sexualities and what boundaries are, set in stone based on who they are as people, but also like what they've been told throughout their cultural identity as well. It's a very they start out as very hyper mask individuals. They're like, this is my woman, she can't do anything else, but they're also willing to go on this adventure with this older, unobtainable figure almost, and the fact that once she's so willing to accept them sexually, that they just completely like dive head over heels and fall into all of these emotional outbursts of jealousy and of lust and of rage and of all of these things on this journey of figuring out who they are. And I think that's a really impactful story that, to your point, Nick, is also told in this way that is so just ordinary. These aren't
Yeah.
This isn't sugar coated life. It is exactly as it needs to be. It's of what horny teenagers do. They do horny teenager things. But they're also not that great at it, even though they've got this hyped up version of themselves in their minds. At the end of the day, that's not who they are as people. It's all this front, and whether or not do I live in this idea of myself, or do I truly just live as who I'm supposed to be? This, and what does that mean for this friendship that I've had, and can my friendship survive this transition with me? Or do I want it to? Now that I've crossed these lines, do I want to go back and just pretend like everything's ordinary with this person, or is it easier just to cut those ties and to move forward in this kind of gray area? What am I now? And I think that this movie is just it is really melancholic at points, and but I don't think that takes away from the beauty and the honesty of it. I also love the fact that this movie is literally not afraid of showing people nudity everywhere. It doesn't care, but it's also not in your face, kind of like in an overtly sexual way. It's not supposed to be.
Well, and honestly, on a certain level, no matter how naked our characters get, really at a true level, they can get as naked as they want, but they're truly usually at their most vulnerable when they're fully clothed emotionally. And I think that's the other thing that's so fascinating about the movie is, again, that sort of the bareness of the reality of it allows for everything to be so real, so personal, and then that also makes some of that vulnerability, and when they're at their most vulnerable or not, sort of shift and ebb and flow.
I definitely think this movie kind of leans into the sad as well, because of also like you want them to grow and change and to like be just as free as the story that they're telling us, but then the fact that they kind of fall back into monotony, and even more so, it just kind of is like, man, is youth truly so fleeting? It's kind of a bummer at the end.
Yeah, the that's what I was saying. I like you were talking about at the beginning. They're like hyper masculine stuff. And they're very boastful and very like they're like pretty aggravating. Honestly, at the beginning, they're just like your typical like douchey, blah blah blah. Like all I want to do is fuck and get fucked up. Like and it reveals the truth of that, which is that always, most of the time comes from insecurities. And this trip they take with this older woman kind of like peels back those layers bit by bit, where they reveal like, like when they're saying stuff like, oh, like I fucked your girlfriend, like, well, I fucked your girlfriend, blah blah blah, and they're like, maybe it's true, but I think the movie kind of leaves it like ambiguous, like these guys are probably maybe just lying. Because they're they claim to like, because they're shown to like not be that sexually like experienced, really.
Mhm.
Despite all their claims that, like, that's all they do.
Yeah, and I mean, like the fact that like she chooses one over the other first, that starts this whole spiral down of being like, well, I have to get him back in some way, so it doesn't
Yeah.
really even matter whether or not he slept with his girlfriend. It's just this like, I'm gonna hurt you because you hurt me kind of
Yeah.
mentality. They keep doing this to each other.
And it shows how they really are, because the whole beginning of the movie and everything, they try to sell themselves, or like show themselves as like people who wouldn't care about these sorts of things, really, like whatever, like I don't care really.
Mm-hmm.
But then they're like, oh, I sold my girlfriend, and they're all like, no, now I'm sad, now I'm upset.
Mm-hmm.
um yeah, I mean, just it's good stuff, and a lot of that comes down to the acting, obviously.
Yeah.
Crazy good performances from everyone. I think part of the sadness also comes from how where they live, and maybe the time period of what was happening kind of prohibited from being who they like, or from being all that they
Mhm.
could have been. They're not
Yeah.
allowed to further, like, society doesn't allow them to further explore what it is they experienced on that trip, really. And their reactions to it, which is just to sort of like just never talk about it. And not even
Yeah.
not even speak to each other. um
Yeah.
Kind of highlights that, they're like, in their mind, that's like, well, that shouldn't have happened. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we shouldn't have done that, or whatever, however they feel about it. Or yeah, you know
Yeah. I mean, we never really even get to explore exactly how they feel about it, because again, it just sort of immediately gets packed up, just like the trip.
they
It's immediately just.
they both have their own reactions upon the next morning, where one of them is sick and the other just immediately goes to like what's for breakfast, like sits down, just goes to talk to other people.
Mhm.
um
No, absolutely.
nor does, and it remains ambiguous also, the extent to whatever it is that they did.
Yeah. And that is one of, and I noticed that is one of the moments where they leave the most ambiguity about a sexual encounter. Pretty much every
Yeah,
single, sexual encounter that has happened, um,
is
has
carried through.
been, has been depicted to a point that you understand very explicitly what happened.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah,
the only one where it starts it and
it
leaves you
does the cut.
perfectly
Yeah.
right where.
Well, and I think that that's kind of mirrored in the fact that they don't touch that moment again.
Mhm.
Every
Yep.
other sexual conquest that we experience in this movie gets re-talked about, gets rehashed. Well, how was it? Did you like it? Or, how was my performance over his performance? All of these kind of check off the block. This moment is something that is to be frowned upon, is to be shamed, is to we're done here. This entire relationship, our entire friendship is over now, without even speaking to one another about what happened. Which it could have been.
Yeah.
It's not like they ever
See,
had to do that again, but they could have easily just talked about what they were feeling in that
right.
moment
It's
and moved forward with it.
it's the tragedy of the response to it, is to just like, that's it then. Well, then we can't hang out ever again. Like
Yeah.
they're not able to process it, and they're not able to, it's like the tragedy of like what could have been, had life been different, had the world been just a little bit different. These
Yeah.
people could have
No,
Yeah.
at
absolutely.
least remained friends, at least remained,
No, yeah,
and
but this kind of fear of knowing that, like, if I still hang out with this person and they know my deepest darkest shame, then who else is going to find out about it? It's easier to just cut these ties and never talk to this person again, and just completely separate myself from it, so that way I
yeah,
can bury this completely. And
and
it's
almost
really
like
such a bummer.
it's almost just really like it didn't happen, I guess. But there, it's whoever's interpretation. sure there are many different interpretations. But you know, to me, it's kind of like it didn't happen. And the only time when we see at the end, where they do come back, is to kind of just deal with the tiniest bit of closure or acknowledgement.
Yeah. Which is almost a closing of the door on
it's the
the
final
magic
say on
of
it,
that
you know.
moment. It's sort of, it breaks the illusion of how mystical almost the ending was. You know, she left them with this prophetic final words. They departed, they went their own ways. How do they feel about it? We don't know. But it had this sort of ambiguity hanging over it. And by the finality of, you know, spoiler alert, Luisa's death being revealed in those final moments, it closes that. Where is Luisa now? We know, you know, and that moment is never coming back.
No, yeah, and I think that there's this kind of hope in that scene, just for a fleeting moment, in, you know, of the fact that they're, you know, we get narrated at about the fact that they haven't seen each other since that trip, and this is their first time seeing each other since then, and this could be a moment of closure, of rekindling this friendship, of starting over, of starting fresh, you know. But instead, it's a final goodbye, and that's,
It's the opposite of the
yeah.
It's the opposite of the ending of Moonlight.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's such a bummer. And honestly, I love the fact that this movie had also just these beautiful windows into what was going on with the Mexican people at this time, what's going on in Mexico. And I felt like this kind of kinship, I guess, to it, you know, with what's going on, you know, here in the States on a more like a grander scale. This sweeping away of all of the things that make it unique and interesting, and this mass mediaifying of what it means to be this. You know, we don't need this fisherman out here doing the job that he's done for generations. You know, keeping on this legacy. Now we get a huge apartment complex there and a bunch of, you know, things that we can sell, and, you know, the stripping away of the true beautiful things of this place. You know, that beach probably doesn't even really exist anymore. It's probably some timeshares or something there. You know, this homogenizing of what it means to be alive at this point. You know, it doesn't matter where you go, the experience is always the same, and that's really that's truly devastating to see, especially so frankly.
That's, you know, echoed, you know, definitely, I think, very resoundingly also by, you know, Julio going and just getting a standard degree and to now going and becoming an economist. You know, it's the same sort of this concession to something that you feel like you have to conform to.
Yeah, this feeling of like, once you grow up, your dreams, this adventure has to cease, and you have to normalize yourself and fit yourself into society in whatever means that means. You know, you don't get to go on these adventures anymore. Now you have to do somebody's taxes for a living. That's such a bummer.
Yeah.
Well, and
there you go.
Also, just that sort of reflective moment for me, definitely, you know, how many people do you meet that you never meet again? You know, is also, I think, kind of like a sort of a painful thought to really start to wander down if you let yourself wander down it enough.
Yeah, you know, maybe they found some peace knowing that she was still out there on the beach.
So, Nick, if you had to rate Y Tu Mamá También, what would you give it?
I gave it 5. I got no. Yeah.
Dear?
Oh no, I think that this movie is a solid 5 out of 5. I don't think that this movie is probably the family friendly option. But I think
I
that
wouldn't
it's,
say
it's
so.
definitely a beautiful piece of art here, that is completely, unique.
Yeah. And I mean, if you really want to get reflective, like this movie will let you.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
If you're just here to see tits, like you're gonna see them, but you're
You're
gonna
gonna be
get bummed
sorely
out at the
disappointed.
end.
No, I'll give it a 5 as well. I mean, it's a wonderfly poetic, wonderfully tender movie. To be able to go to such a vulnerable place, as a writer, as an actor, and to also be able to capture that vulnerability and convey it on screen, uh, is a real feat.
Yeah.
I'm pretty astounded by the movie. It's one that I haven't really stopped thinking about. It's one that like I woke up and crossed my mind like a few times in the night. No, it's also one that I guess truly just has to be seen. And I think, going back to a point that I wanted to hit on with you, you were like, it's one that I see people talk about, but didn't really have any context for it, didn't really have any information going into it. I think it is truly one of those things, not to be seen to be believed, but to be seen to just sort of get it. Because if I just tried to explain to you everything that happened verbatim in the film, you would wonder why anyone would watch it.
Yeah, it's not going to have that emotional impact.
It needs the context, the richness of everything happening at once. Otherwise, it's just going to sound like I'm telling you about someone's life, And so I think that it's incredibly impressive, though. And I was very impressed with it.
Nice.
Nice.
Well, I guess with that out of the way, Nick, we always do what we've been watching. Nick, what have you been watching?
Yeah, dude. So there's a bunch, obviously, since the last time I was here. I'll talk about like just recent stuff, I guess. Nope. Awesome. Nope is fucking awesome. Good stuff. I watched The Gray Man. Not so awesome. Not not the worst thing you'll see. It has that same like Netflix ugly gray, like The Gray Man, but but it just looks so bad, man. So much stuff, especially in the action department, just looks so bad. And not particularly, it's forgettable. What else? They Them, also not so awesome. They Slash Them, sorry. Slasher movie with Kevin Bacon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
It's okay, and then it's just like not. It's just not great. Not very good. Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. Linked that one a lot. Recommend that one. A lot of fun. Pretty smart. Fall, almost good. Fall is the two women who climb the giant radio tower. Yeah, you'll have to find out. Will they fall in fall? In the fall? I think it does a good job photography wise with like the single location that's up high, feels good, looks good, good performances from the two leads. It gets really stupid and then they're like the dumbest. They're so stupid. It's one of those classic like, well, we went out to do this dangerous thing in the middle of nowhere and didn't tell anybody where we'd be.
Yeah.
Didn't tell a soul.
That's how you want to do it.
Made no actual, made enough plans to do said dangerous thing, but not fully prepare at all for like emergency that would obviously happen. Almost good.
The most
almost
predictable
fun.
emergency.
Almost fun. When I Consume You, it's a indie like thriller with a little dash of like supernatural horror in there. Very good. I like that one. I watched Orphan for the first time. I had never seen
Oh,
Orphan.
okay.
I ended up liking it a good bit. It's a fun horror movie.
Yeah, that movie's nuts.
I thankfully had never had it spoiled for me, so it was a lot of fun.
That's incredible. That's really
Yeah.
impressive.
I don't know how I didn't know.
For me, I haven't seen it.
I didn't know. I didn't know how I don't know, but I was like, oh, that was fun. Bullet Train, no. Bullet Train is just not funny. It's like for every chuckle, you have like 3, like that was terrible. Just not funny. Aaron Taylor Johnson is going for it. I like what he's doing. Brad Pitt feels miscast, and I don't really understand his character at any point, even though this movie's like 2.5 hours long.
Oh.
It's like supposed to be like, clever fun. And it's not clever. And it's not much fun. It's a little bit of fun. It's not enough to overcome the bad. It's way too long. Not a great script. Anyway, Beast
Really
is
okay.
Beast is enjoyable. I liked Beast more than I thought. That just comes down to good direction. This guy went to, speaking of Alfonso Cuarón, Beast is majority just like really long takes. There are very few scenes that are like, like less than like a minute. They're like almost everything is like a long take, like dialogue scenes and stuff. The camera stays, like moves around anytime the lion action is going on. It's a long single take. It's pretty cool. More stupidity, so that's always the issue. The script could be better. A lot of the characters are just dumb. Just morons. I'm almost done here. I'm almost caught up. Emily the Criminal, starring Aubrey Plaza, fucking fantastic. I also give that one a 5. Everybody should go watch that.
Oh, okay.
That's a really good little crime thriller. And she has a wonderful performance. It's very, very good. Then I saw Orphan First Kill, which just came out. I think it's fine. I don't like it as much as the first one. But it at least it like has it goes in a different direction like halfway through, which helps it not be a repeat of the original, which is like what it seems like it's setting up is just be like a rehash. But then it very smartly like goes a different way and becomes more fun. I don't know why it's called First Kill at all. I don't know. The movie begins, she's already killed people, and it opens with her killing more people before it goes to like the main plot. So I don't know why it's called First Kill. We don't see the first kill happen.
It's like a Halloween Revenge of Michael. Who is he getting revenge of?
When does this happen? When does this happen?
Tell me when the first kill was.
Vengeance is mine. 3,000 Years of Longing. Really good. I like 3,000 Years of Longing. Good stuff. That's like entirely dialogue. But it's very engaging. George Miller just makes good movies. I don't know what to tell you. And I saw the new Dragon Ball movie, Dragon Ball Super Superhero. Which was okay. It's exciting half the time, but then other time it's like it's more like a missed opportunity. I like a lot of what I like about this movie is that it's not like another damn Goku movie. It's not Goku and Vegeta. They purposely put Goku and Vegeta somewhere else. So it's Piccolo and Gohan. Predominantly Piccolo, which is interesting. So I appreciate a focus on like side characters that people still love. But I don't think they do enough with any kind of story. It just is like, we got to fight these guys, and then they go fight them. So that was, and it's
Kind
fun.
of Dragon Ball, guys.
Yeah, it's fun. It's obvious this one is like it's pretty so like supposed to be comedic at certain points. I guess like more so than like a few Dragon Ball movies. All Dragon Ball movies are pretty serious.
Yeah.
But this one has like a lot of silliness going on half the time. But it's still fun. This is the first Dragon Ball movie to be completely CG animated. It looks really good though because it's still trying to mimic like the 2D style, or it's still going off of the 2D style. And it's also like not unfamiliar for anybody that likes Dragon Ball because the video games have been doing that for like decades now, where they've just translated the 2D to the 3D for like every single Dragon Ball game. So action still looks great. Yeah, like I said, it feels like a missed opportunity to do something interesting, like more character wise for them. Instead, they're just like, they get a new power up. And you're like, okay, that's great. Can we like do anything with who they are as people? And I get that. I get that it's Dragon. I get that. I was gonna say I get that it's like Dragon Ball, but that's not really fair because they used to have character development to go with the action throughout the series. So I don't think it's too much to ask.
I mean, honestly, it's like Pokemon sometimes. You're like, you get it.
Pokemon, I don't even know, man. Pokemon has a lot of episodes. There's a lot of Pokemon stuff. That's pretty much it. That's all I got.
Okay.
Did I have any more notes about it?
No, I mean, like you've been watching a hell of a lot more than we have been lately.
I mean, we haven't seen Nick in a while.
No, that's also true. What have we been?
So that's from
lately?
I started at Nope, so that was like the end of July, like a month and a half is what I went through.
Okay. We did, of course, also see Nope. Lately, though, from like last week to this week, we watched Back to the Future Part 3.
Yes, we did. I did watch.
I've never seen any of those. I've never seen a single Back to the Future. Nope. Just never did. Never owned the movies or watched them on TV as a kid. Just never did it.
Well, I'm.
Well, great, Scott.
If you want, you can borrow my you can borrow my box set.
Yeah, it's got all three. We can done.
It's very kind.
Yeah, so we watched the third one. We were just sort of hanging out, and we didn't watch all of them. But on Labor Day, Freeform was doing like an '80s movie thing, and so throughout the day on the TV, we had like 16 Candles and Breakfast Club and The Goonies.
Mm-hmm. And there was Nerds.
Revenge of the Nerds. Revenge of the Nerds
came on, yeah.
Which I had never seen any of that movie at all.
Oh, there's some very problematic parts of Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah, there are. Don't you worry about that. Because we saw it on Freeform.
It's a bit of a rapey movie.
And so that was quite the journey.
That's a fun throwback time.
Yeah. What else? That's honestly just about everything that we've watched. Pretty much because like this week we've been.
We watched that Jackie Chan movie with Mom and Dad.
Oh yes, we watched Police Story.
Ooh.
Have you ever seen Police Story?
Nope.
Okay, it's one of Jackie Chan's, and he directed it. He co-directed it, and the second, third act ish has like a little bit of a lull in there where parts of the narrative are great, but parts of it are definitely bogging it down some. But the action on that thing is absolutely fucking bananas.
Oh
Yeah.
people jumping out of like second story windows,
I mean-
third story windows, and you know they're doing it.
Yeah, because like
And
this
there are
is
no
Yeah.
pads.
this is classic Hong Kong filmmaking. The opening action sequence, it essentially looks like they took a hill that used to not have anything on it, built like a favela type slum city with the intention of then driving cars through it and blowing it up.
Yeah.
That was one take.
Nice.
That was all they had.
Yeah.
And like per pretty much every Jackie Chan movie, it ends with a little bit of like B-roll blooper stuff of like people being
Right.
injured.
All right.
And you suddenly see there's like a little montage there for a little bit where they show you like 3 or 4 different people being like absolutely blacked the fuck out,
Just
getting like
bleeding.
carted out, and one of them's Jackie, like the one of the people that they bring out looking just
Oh yeah.
dead in people's
yeah.
arms is Jackie Chan himself.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he does it for real, man. He does it for real.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Now you see some of the faces where they like hit the ground, and you know that wasn't the way they wanted to do that.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
that's the take
Yeah,
that
it's like
got
they
in the
missed the
movie.
pad.
Yeah.
The pad on their back. This
Uh,
half inch of foam, possibly.
Kira and I have been watching Saturday Morning All Star Hits, which is on Netflix. It's Kyle Mooney's show. Kyle Mooney from SNL.
Yeah.
And it's like a kind of like a parody take on like late 80s, early 90s like cartoons, like Saturday morning cartoons.
Okay.
Very, very funny. Like shows like,
Okay.
like Care Bears, like in Transformers and, like stuff like that.
G.I. Joe,
Yeah.
that kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah. And, like the advertisements you'd see in between the episodes and all that.
Okay.
Cereal commercials for strawberry shortcakes,
Yeah.
cereal
Yeah.
cups or
Stuff like
whatever.
that.
Mhm.
It's very, very funny.
Okay. We'll have to add that to the list. The only other thing that we've done, we started playing Destroy All Humans 2 a little bit.
Nice.
And
Fun
because it's
games.
got co-op,
Great
and so
games.
that was incredible games. However, co-op spaceship stuff is dog shit. It's
It's
no
absolutely
Can't
good.
handle it.
You might as well just make it one
Take it to
person.
the drawing board.
Too ambitious. Too ambitious. Ahead of its time.
It's right.
Yeah.
It's absolutely right.
And then The Last of Us Remastered came out, and I am a sucker for it. I love that game. I love both games. And like, I do got to be honest, the remaster I wasn't sure was going to really live up to expectation, but like I'm very happy with it. I think it looks great. I think it plays
Nice.
great. I'm pretty happy with it, and it's just such a great narrative. And so I've been really enjoying going back and replaying that.
Nice.
And that's pretty much actually all that we have really been watching this. We watched Child's Play too, but you don't get to find out about that until later.
Yeah.
Okay. Deal. All right.
but I think that's
I'm
just
off
about
to
it.
see.
Yeah.
I'm off to see Barbarian, which just comes out
Oh, okay.
today.
Well, then we'll go ahead and wrap this bad boy on up. Nick, you have yourself a wonderful evening, folks.
Thank you.
I'll
You as
drop
well.
where you can find Nick down below. And we'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.